samasta jana kalyani niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam sadgurum brahma vidvaram vasudeva sutam devam kamsa chanora devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadgurum tvameva mata cha pitatvameva tvameva bandhuscha sakhatvameva tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva sarvam mama deva deva tvameva sarvam gurudeva deva. Hari Om. So we are continuing the discussion on who am I, or what is this Atma, or what is Paramatma. So all are being addressed, and we mentioned that these are all indicative definitions or the pointers for the mind to contemplate on, to discover who I am, because who I am cannot be described, because yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. When it says the mind nor the words can reach there, but at the same time the whole Vedanta book pages and bhashyas and are there, they are all pointers. So one needs to know what exactly being pointed out, and for that to see what is being pointed at and how I discover, for that only a sadhana and a proper education is required, because it requires a viveka, a subtle discrimination, where since there are two things which are inseparable, I have to cognitively understand, and this being explained now more in the next sloka we take. We are doing the slokas from a Viveka Chudamani, and this is 133, we did 132, now we are doing 133 now. Yeshontaratma Purusha Purano, Yeshontaratma Purusha Purano, Nirantara Khanda Sukhanubhutihi, Nirantara Khanda Sukhanubhutihi, Tadaika Rupa Pratibodhamatram, Tadaika Rupa Pratibodhamatraha, Yenishita Vagasava Charanti, Yenishita Vagasava Charanti. So, Yesha Antaratma Purushaha Puranaha. So, some more pointers are being here. Says, so Yeshaha, so Antaratma, this is that which is Antaratma. This is the inner dwelling of, so when I say inner dwelling, I am looking inwards. Inwards means the essence of each one. So inwards of myself and inwards of the whole world also. Inwards of the whole world is nothing but the pure existence. That essentially, Aidadatma Idagam Sarvam Tat Satyam. That Idagam Sarvam Atma. Atma means essence of the whole Idam Sarvam. This entire universe is nothing but pure existence alone. And that I am, or that you are. Svetaketu, that is the truth, and that is Tattvamasi, is how the teaching here. So Yeshantaratma, so Antaratma means inside, so the inner dwelling, that means which as though inside, and that he will go into again Panchakoshas and all that we're talking about, but here is inner means the essence, because of which, that's the heart of the problem. Heart of the problem is essence of the problem. So when I say heart of the problem, it is not a real heart. We are talking about what is the essence of the problem. So what is the Lord resides in the heart, not the physical heart we are talking about. It is the heart, is the essence of what? Essence of myself is I am. So I am the way, what Jesus says, but they interpret I am the way as Jesus is the way. But here scripture also says I am the way means I have to investigate what is that I am, that is pure existent consciousness that I am. So Eshaha Antaratma Purushaha, that which enlivens this body, that makes the body active. So it is expressing itself. Through its expression, I have to recognize it. So therefore, I am active. The life is vengeful. Know that it is due to that Atma. It is due to the presence of the very consciousness, because of which the whole body becomes as though conscious of the surroundings also. So therefore, Purushaha and Puranaha. Pura means it is ancient. Pura means it is even before the concept of time is Puranaha. That means it's a beginningless. So beginning and all that are or concepts of time itself. But even before the time came into picture, this is how. In the Bible also, it says, of the third day, God created the sun. It says, so what do you mean third day? So how we do know first day, second day, when there is no sun there? Because to define a day, we need a sun. So the question can be asked, say, how can there be third day without the sun? First, second day, how did it happen? So third day means the concept of time. So the sun indicates here the concept of time. Third in the sequence of creation is a time concept. Time concept comes only after first thought, second thought. So the gap between them defines the third. So therefore time itself comes as the third in the sequence of creation. And therefore Puranaha, before any creation occurs, it is already there. So therefore the creation comes from that only, appearance comes only from that. Therefore it is Puranaha. Even from the Jiva point also, it is beginningless, because avidya is beginningless and because ignorance is beginningless. Therefore we say Janmadi, the cycle of birth, death and all that is beginningless. Vasana started beginningless, all are beginningless, but it can end because the avidya can end. Avidya means ignorance can end by the knowledge, and therefore there can be end for it. For all other things, that which has beginningless cannot end. But this is a peculiar because it's of the nature of ignorance. So here Purana stands for, it says that which is essentially Purusha, that enlivening the entity and is always there. And that's how the Krishna starts also. Gita Upadesasara says, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam nemi janadipaha nachaiva bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Therefore, this is that there is never a time I was not there, never a time you are not there, never a time all these. So this is a beginningless jivas itself, but once it becomes totality, then there is beyond the birth and death, beyond the time itself. And this for it is nirantara akhanda sukhanubhutihi. What's the nature of this Atma? It is nirantaram. So there is no end for it. It is endless, that is infinite. Akhandam, that which is broken, non-broken, that means there are no divisions of any kind in that. It is pure, it is prajnana ghanam. It is pure, absolute consciousness, undifferentiated consciousness, undifferentiated existence, and at the same time it is sukha anubhutihi. Because it's infinite, it is of the nature of limitless, and therefore it says sukha anubhutihi. It is as though experience of absolute happiness, and that is essentially the nature of Ananda. So why do I need it? Because I am looking for it. All my pravrutti and nivrutti, all my activities, I am looking for absolute uninterrupted happiness, and only way I can get is to recognize that I am already that. And essentially the nature of Atma. And even other happiness is only coming from that as a reflected happiness. So whenever my desire is fulfilled, I am calm and quiet, the mind has quietened down, mind is like a still pool in which the reflection is beautified, and that I see as Ananda. The more the agitations, the more intense desire is, and when it is fulfilled, the mind becomes completely calm, and the intensity of happiness also changes. So all the happiness that I am getting is only a reflected happiness of the totality. But when I recognize that I am the totality, then I am Apurnam. Says in Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, Apurnam is overflowing happiness, because I cannot but be happy because I am infinite. So everything near me also will get happiness. So we used to sit around Swami Chinmayananda and say, because it is so happy to be around him, even though he was busy with so many things, because the very happiness pours out in the very presence itself. That's what all the Mahatmas are. Nirantara akhanda sukhanubhutihi sadaika rupaha pratibodha matram sat eka rupaha. It's of the nature of existence and one alone without a second. That is ekameva advitiyam. That is of the nature of rupaha. It's infinite form itself. It is formless form, and pratibodha matram, and it is of the nature of pure knowledge itself, and it is pratibodha matram. It is in which every knowledge is also taking place because of that. So it is of the nature of knowledge or pure consciousness, and also because of it only I am able to know. So in every knowledge it is being evident, because when I say I know, there is a conscious principle has to come into picture. So pratibodha viditam matam, in the Kenopanishad it says it is known in every knowledge that you are taking place. So what should I do to know Atma? It is evident everywhere. Anything you know because of that Atma only. But Atma itself says I am akarta bhokta, I am neither knower nor, from the point of absolute there is no. From the point of relative, where I want to know, the one who wants to know is itself, we say I am a conscious entity and I am knowing principle. Therefore the very knowing principle involves consciousness, and therefore it says pratibodha matram. It's the nature of absolute consciousness, and because of which I am conscious of everything that I know through the process of pramana, through the process of knowledge. And that's what essentially here in this sloka the Acharya is taking the Kenopanishad statements and putting it in a form that we can easily understand. And eneshita vagasarah charanti. Yena eshita, propelled by what? Vak and savaha, asavaha. Vak and the pranas, the speech and prana are able to move around. That means I go from one life to other life and so on because of this. And in fact, the Kenopanishad starts with the statement Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha kena prana pratamaha praitiyuktaha keneshitam vachamam vadanti chakshu stotram ka udevo yunakti. So he says, in fact, the student goes and asks, propelled by what? That one, the mind is able to think, and the prana, the life principle is functioning, and how the speech is coming, or the chakshu, I is able to see, or by propelled by what? I am able to hear. All that, this is the very questioning of the very Kena Upanishad. Since it starts with the Kena, it's called Kenopanishad. And the teacher explains essentially sotrasya sotram manaso vano yadu vachoha vacham sau pranasya pranaha chachushasya chachuhu. So he says it is the ear of the ear, the eye, the mind of the mind, and the eyes of the eyes, explained in a very mystical language, because it cannot be pointed out. It is the mind of the mind. It is because of which I am minding everything, that which cannot be minded and that which cannot be known through any mental process, but because of which the mind is. And therefore Kenopanishad explains further, Yan manasa manute enahur manomatam tadeva brahmatam viddi nedam ididam upasate. Says to the student, the mature student, says, how do you define Brahman? That the mind cannot think of it, but because of which mind has the capacity to think of it. That alone is Brahman, not this that you worship here in the form of the idols and so on and so forth. So it wants to take the mind of the seeker to go beyond this worship of the idols, to go to higher understanding. Says, what is that? Yachurchusha napasyati, yena chakshum sapasyati, tadeva brahma tvam viddi, nedam ididam upasate. That which eyes cannot see, that because of which eyes can see, that which propels by its mere presence of it. Your eyes are able to see. I am able to talk. What speech I can do, but I cannot talk about it because it's not something objectifiable. It's not something I can hear, but because of which I am able to hear. That alone is Brahman, not this that you worship. So essentially he is using to remind us about the Kenopanishad. So eneshita, that's exactly Keneshitam pratati pranaha. So eshita, propelled by what? Propelled by what is essentially due to this. So what do I have to do to see Atma? In every activity I have to contemplate by what I am able to see. I can see. How? I am just taking granted as though it is my natural thing. But by what? Capacity to see, capacity to hear, capacity to transact. It's a wonder of all wonders, because the matter cannot do, but something else is propelling me to do. I can say, I can give a biological or the analysis of how eyes can see. But what exactly is a consciousness? What propels all that cannot be known unless through Vedanta. Even Vedanta directs says, this is how you see. So it's pointing in the direction. It is the mind of the mind. It is that because of which you see, but which you cannot see that, because it's not an object. So I had to use very delicately the viveka, discriminative intellect. So the buddhi has to be used in order to gain that knowledge. And therefore, says, Yeneshita vaga savaha charanti. Propelled by this only, the whole functioning of the body function. So, how far I have to do? What do I have to do to know the Brahman? It is just recognition of the very essence of the life principle, because of which whole functioning is happening. The whole I am able to see, I am able to talk, all the indriyas, mind, able to think, all the capacity to recollect the memory, all the processes, wonder itself. We take things for granted, but that's Vedanta is pointing out, that exactly is Brahman, not any other thing. So when I look for Brahman, this is what it is. It is a discriminative process involved, where these two things are occurring together, but I have to separate something which is subtle compared to the grosser one. And that's how I have to discover myself, who I am. And if we go to the next sloka, Atraiva Sattvatmanidhi Guhayam Avyakrutakasa Urup Prakashaha Akasa Buchaira Vivat Prakashate Swatejasa Vishwamidam Prakashayam. This is sloka 134. Atraiva Sattvatmanidhi Guhayam Avyakrutakasa Urup Prakashaha Akasa Buchaira Vivat Prakashate Swatejasa Vishwamidam Prakashayan. 20 minutes ayindamma. Good. Okay. So Atraiva, in the body only, Atra is now referring to Deha Indriya Prana. So Atraiva says, in the body only, Sattvatmani Dhi Guhaya. This is essentially that which is pure existent consciousness in the Atmani, in the consciousness that I am, in the self that I am, Dhi Guhayam, in the innermost of the buddhi. In the Guha means as though it is cave, I am shining there itself. That's what the Lord says. I am there in everybody's heart. And this heart is nothing but the very intellect. So, because of which intellect is able to prepare. So, intellect is the subtlest instrument. This is in the process of the body, the mind, and the intellect. And the man is blessed because of the intellect. And therefore, the Manushya Janma is glorified. That's how the Viveka Chudamani starts. So, in the Dhi Guhayam, Guha means a cave. So when you are inside the cave, there is no light there. But this itself is light. Without that, there cannot be light. And I am the very essence of it. And that is essentially Guhayam. So innermost sanctum sanctorum is where the God is. And the God, if you go to any temple, as you go to all the prakaranas, there are almost like 5, which we will discuss with as a part of Panchakoshas. And when you go into that, it's completely dark there, and it is lighted by the Deepam there, Akhanda Deepam, that which is continuously light, and that's what essentially is being there. So you don't put electricity there or flower lights there, it is dark. Why? It is Garbhagudi. So it is innermost essence, and to indicate this is essentially what Lord is insiding in the Buddhi Guhayam. And it is the light from which the whole thing is coming in. To recognize it is the very presence of the light, because I can see everything, and that's what essentially is implication. And Arati we do with a Karpuram. Karpuram is Vasanas. Karpura Vasana means smell. So Karpuram, when it burns and nothing is left on the plate. So it is actually burning of the Vasanas, is burning of the karpuram symbolically, and when the karpuram, the camphor, karpuram is camphor, is burned, it smokes out and nothing is left behind on this one. So same way, a burning of the vasanas, I had to recognize the Lord. So when the vasanas are eliminated, the mind becomes a pure. I am retrieved of the raga dveshas, the likes and dislikes, and then only my mind becomes sensitive enough that viveka, a subtlety, is able to discriminate what is real and what is not real in every transactions also. And that is essentially what is required. And it says, Atraiva Sattvatmani Dhi Guhayam Avyakruta Akasha Uruprakasa Avyakrutam. So essentially that which is Avyakrutam means essentially Maya, and Akasha, Maya Akasha means the infinite space itself, that which is infinite, and that is Maya. This is Uruprakasha, that is brilliantly shining, it is illumining the Maya itself. How does it illumine? In terms of Vibhuti of the Lord. So everything is glorified because of the Maya, and is expressing through the Maya the whole, as a whole universe also. So everything that I see, even though Maya is delusion, we are talking about, Maya is also glorifying the Lord itself. This is my Maya. That's why Daivim Esha Gunamayi Mamaya Duratyaya, it is of the divine nature, and that is what is here, is a Urprakasha. Akasa Uchai Ravi Prakashate. So Ravivat Prakashate. In the sky, in the higher up, it's the sun is shining. It's as though brilliant sun, and because of the sun, whole life is pulsating on the earth. But sun himself, if you ask why are you doing that, he says, I have nothing to do it. I am just self-shining in the sky. So same way, it's all-pervading consciousness, mere presence of it, whole life is coming into picture, and wherever there is a possibility of life, life can exist, and that's because of that tejas. So like a sun, it is essentially Ravivat Prakashate. So Tejasa Viswamidam Prakashan. So in its light only, Tasya Bhasa Sarvamidam Vibhati. In its light only, everything is lighted. So that's what we said. When showing the light to the Lord, says, I want to see. How can I see with this light? Because you are the light, and from which the whole, everything is lighted. So whenever I see something or I know something, it's being illumined by the consciousness, and I had to recognize in every knowledge presence of the consciousness. So what should I do? Meditation. Meditation is to see the presence of that Atma in every transaction, in every knowledge, in every perception, because without this I cannot even transact it. This is what meditation will be. So when you are not in meditation, you will be all the time in meditation if I understand the very basis of the whole creation and the very basis of the knowledge itself. That is the real knowledge, to recognize myself in everything also. We will continue with this. The next talk, we will stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.